on multi-stakeholder approach in handling POSH complaints, a corporate perspective. I, Aishwarya CR, Assistant Professor, Department of Business Laws, School of Excellence in Law, the Tamil Nadu Dr. Ambedkar Law University, will be moderating this session. Sexual harassment is a menace prevailing globally for centuries now. Governments are making constant efforts in bringing laws to prevent and redress the problem. Yet, the problem is still continuing. The Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act of 2013, commonly referred to as POSH, is a step forward. Today, we'll be having a discussion on ways of handling sexual harassment complaints from a corporate perspective in today's context. Dear participants, a feedback link will be posted during the thanking note in the chat box in Cisco WebEx meetings as well as YouTube. Kindly follow it up. To begin the session, I'm glad to call upon Dr. Kumudaratna, Director in Charge, Postgraduate Course, School of Excellence in Law, the Tamil Nadu Dr. Ambedkar Law University, to please deliver the welcome address. I welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you, Aishwarya. A very bright and happy afternoon to one and all present here. I don't say happy just like that. It's a special day, special event, special time for us today, especially because the next generation of teaching fraternity of Business Law Department are doing this webinar for the first time. Right from choosing the resource person, keynote speaker, from contacting him, doing the brochure and coming up to the stage and going on further also, it is completely the efforts of the second generation, next generation of our Department of Business Law teaching fraternity, namely Ms. Patila, Mr. Atichudi, Ms. Divya, and Ms. Aishwarya. And also we have an alumnus from our institution, Mr. Mayappan Kumaran, who is a guest faculty as of now. And I believe soon he will become a regular faculty also by God's grace. So I seek the blessings of elders and also the best wishes of youngsters to this, our next generation of teaching fraternity. And we, the senior faculty of this department, namely myself, Dr. Harita Devi, and also Dr. Ranjit Omine Abraham, took a backseat in this program, and we were just looking for afar, and whenever they sought the guidance, or when we thought that they need some guidance, we were stepping in. Apart from that, our contribution to this webinar is very minimal, and the credit goes to these 4 or 5 of the next generation. Best wishes to you all. And now I thank, first of all, our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sir, Professor Dr. N. Santosh Kumar, Sir. It is because of Sir's guidance and Sir's impetus and encouragement that we have been able to do so much. Each and every faculty in this institution have been doing virtual programs, and not only the encouragement, now people are so enthusiastic that almost every faculty is coming up with webinars every day, and our calendar is becoming full for the forenoon and afternoon also, every day including Sundays. Thank you very much, sir, and a hearty welcome to you to this program. And my very grateful welcome to the resource person, keynote speaker, chief guest of this day, Mr. Ramnath Rao. And sir has been very busy with, I know, because if you're on the corporate side, you'll be almost every time busy and all that. But in spite of your busy schedule, you have taken time to come and, give us further knowledge and guidance on how to deal with sexual harassment, if at all it happens. And first of all, how to recognize that it's a sexual harassment if it is in a very minimal stage, and, cut it off at the grassroots level itself, and also the redressal, etc. mechanisms. Thank you very much, sir, and a hearty welcome to you. And next, I welcome the principals of the various government law colleges affiliated to this institution. Because it's a virtual program, I'm not able to scroll around and identify who all are here. A very thankful welcome to each and one of you, sirs and ma'ams. My welcome to Professor Dr. Balaji, the registrar of this institution, who also doubles up as director of the UG course, controller of examinations, Dr. Srinivasan R., and my welcome to Dr. Harita Devi, who is also the director in charge of the research, publications, and academic affairs department of this institution. She is a member of this Department of Business Law. A hearty welcome to you, Harita. And also welcome to Dr. Ashok Kumar, who is the campus director of this institution, both Pumbulil and Perungudi campus, and also he is the head of the library wing of this institution. Hearty welcome to Dr. Ashok Kumar. My welcome to all the various heads of the department. We have 10 departments, 9 law departments, and 1 interdisciplinary. A hearty welcome to the heads of each of the department. Thank you for sparing the time and taking part in this our webinar. My very pleasant welcome to each and every one of the teaching fraternity, not only of this institution, the School of Excellence in Law, but also the faculty of the various law colleges and various other educational institutions, many of whom are alumnus of this institution, and they have also, worked here, served here as teaching fraternity. A very hearty welcome to you all. And my welcome, as always, is very special for our students because they are the burgeoning lawyers of this institution and they will have a hand in molding the society at large. And this topic, I would say, is a very not only sensitive topic, but it will help them in turn help the society when they become active practicing lawyers and help very many people who are not aware of, this intricate matter of sexual harassment and all that happening not only in the corporates, I would say even in the labor class, even in the construction areas, that's what I hear. And in any department you take, whether it is a high posh institution or a very low rung not institution, just working without any, I don't know what the term is they use in labor law. I'm not able to recollect. So in every area, wherever people work, there is sexual harassment, and it is not gender sensitive. It is of both sides only. We only concentrate on the women being harassed that way. And I hope that this, no, I don't hope, I believe, and I know that this program will be of very much importance to the next generation students. A very hearty, gracious welcome to you all. Thank you very much. Over to you, Aishwarya.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for your kind words. It was so kind of you. Now, I request Ms. Divya, Assistant Professor, Department of Business Law, School of Excellence in Law, the Tamil Nadu Dr. Ambedkar Law University, to introduce the theme to our participants.
Divya?
I think.
Patila, what happened?
I think she's not in the line.
Can you go on with Atichudi, Aishwarya? Let her come back.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Atichudi, you're ready?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Continue. She can come back by then. Okay, Aishwarya?
Yes, sir.
Introduce him.
I request Mr. Atishwari, Assistant Professor, School of Excellence in Law, the Tamil Nadu Dr. Ambedkar Law University, to deliver the felicitation address.
Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon, my senior faculties and my ma'am. And I'm felicitation address regarding our keynote speaker. Sir has hailed from a family of lawyers. Sir has completed bachelor's in law from the prestigious Madras Law College under Tamil Nadu Dr. Ambedkar Law University in 2005, and he has secured the gold medal for the batch 2000 to 2005. This is one of the laurel in his educational ground. And then he had pursued MBA from PSG Institute of Management, where he was awarded the best outgoing student. And this was one of the another laurel in his educational ground. He started his corporate journey with the prestigious Tata Group software giant TCS as a management trainer. The journey that has been rich and exciting one, which the topmost professionals and legendary leaders of the IT industry. Sir's experience across HR and legal domains has been for more than a decade and a half. Sir's area of expertise includes HR compliance, talent acquisition, legal domains, and continues till this day as a senior corporate counsel. Sir's professional stint includes MNCs and startup companies from IT, oil and gas in India, and as well as in Singapore. Sir's passion is to interact with budding management professionals and mentoring young HR and legal aspirants. Currently, Sir has been engaged in multiple geographies for HR and employment policies, contracts, developing a robust in-house learning culture. As HR head of complaints and welfare of Chennai, Sir has a passion to share his journey with budding professionals for a real-time corporate experience. And he is participating in many management and HR quiz. Is an area of Sir's immense interest, which has honed with the best of the professionals with national level accolades with AIMA and NHRD competitions for HR professionals. And Sir is having 14 years of experience with specialization in HR, business partnering, legal, talent engagement, talent acquisition, talent development, and legal domains. And also, Sir is having 10 years of experience as a branch lead, HR compliance, and talent engagement lead. And also, Sir is having experience in conducting 100 plus domestic inquiries in disciplinary cases and prevention of sexual harassment cases as internal committee member. And because of these laurels, Sir is one of the most apt and suitable person to provide a keynote address in the topic of multi-stakeholder approach in handling a post-compliance corporate perspective. We welcome you, sir, on behalf of our business law department, and we invite you to provide a keynote address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you
Mr.
so much,
Raj.
Atichudi, sir.
Is Divya available?
Yes, madam, I'm here, madam. Yes, madam, I'm here. Yes.
I request Ms. Divya to introduce the theme to our participants now.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Aishwarya, madam. A very good afternoon to everyone present here. Am I audible? Yes, am I audible?
Very audible. Very.
Okay, madam. Yes. A society which respects women is a society worth respecting. Forgotten are the days when men used to be the sole breadwinners of a family. Globalization has brought a cardinal change in the status of women worldwide. However, with a larger influx of women in the mainstream workforce of India, sexual harassment at workplaces assumed greater dimensions. In India, sexual harassment, especially in corporate field, has become an everyday thing with news of rapes or assaults being a part of newspaper and media headlines. Between the growing concerns about workplace harassment, the government came with a law to prevent such occurrences at the workplace, famously called as the POSH Act. So what is this POSH Act? The Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Prevention, Prohibition and Redress Act of 2013 is what is famously called as the POSH Act. The object of the Act is to provide a safe, secure, and enabling environment free from sexual harassment to every woman. This statute was enacted to fill the legislative void which had been partially addressed by the judiciary in the landmark case Vishaka and others versus State of Rajasthan. Even after the enactment of this particular piece of legislation, we would have heard about a very famous movement called as the Me Too movement that started on the social media, has caused the reputation of many big companies and firms and crashed the career of many high-flying people. Why Me Too when there is a law to protect us? Section 9 of the POSH Act undoubtedly states that an aggrieved woman can make a complaint to the Internal Complaints Committee, famously called as the ICC, or local committee as the case may be, in writing, thus highlighting the written nature of the complaint against sexual harassment. Irrespective of such a provision available to file a complaint, still many women are averse to come forward with complaints of sexual harassment at workplace due to various reasons, such as fear of vengeance from the accused, the employer, other colleagues, the stigma, apprehension of not being taken seriously, and just the list continues. Several companies have adopted the best practices in handling sexual harassment effectively. Some organizations are going beyond what is mandated to identify innovative ways for handling the issue of sexual harassment at the workplace. At the same time, there are still several companies which persist to underreport the number of sexual harassment incidents. Enormous growth in the corporate sector and the need to protect the employees, more particularly women, in their workplaces led to the need to deliberate on this particular topic, multi-stakeholders approach in handling POSH complaints. Let me stop here as we have the best person with us, Mr. Ramnath Rao, Senior Counsel, Zoho Corporation, to enlighten us more with his rich experience and exposure in corporate arena. particularly with reference to POSH. Thank you, sir, for spending your valuable time and being with us today. And I'm eagerly waiting for your keynote address. Over to you, Aishwarya, madam.
Thank you, madam, for your elaborate introduction. Now I request Mr. Ramnath V. Rao to kindly deliver the keynote address. Please, sir.
Thank you, Aishwarya ma'am. Thank you for all the kind words shared earlier. Before I start, let me formally express my gratitude here to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. N. S. Santosh Kumar sir, for his stellar guidance and leadership, under whom so many programs are being conducted of quality. It's not just about the numbers. No, the quality is really good. So I would like to appreciate the university, the faculty team here, and my special thanks to Dr. Kumudaratna ma'am here, Director, Postgraduate Course School of Excellence, and all the other wonderful staff members, faculty, teaching and non-teaching. I think without your support, this program would not have happened. Thank you for inviting me over here. Now, when I chose this topic after choosing and submitting it to the university, let me do this, I really thought long and hard. Now, out of these so many webinars and YouTube videos available, why would somebody tune into this session and listen to this interaction? So what I found was most of us think about the actual internal complaints committee, the investigation process. There are a lot of other areas which, as corporate professionals, as HR and legal professionals, we tend to see. The idea behind this session was to give an inside view of what happens really when you get a complaint. What is the impact that it has on the individual, the respondent, the stakeholders? So that is why I wanted to name this as the multi-stakeholder approach. It's not just the internal committee or just the legal and HR teams. So I wanted to present this from a 360-degree perspective. So I hope my speaking pace is fine. So because my normal pace is very fast, so I'll just slow it down. So please stop me if you have any doubts from the organizing
It's
side.
good, sir. If you're speedy, we'll get more information. So it's good.
Right. Thank you so much. So before I start, just a general disclaimer that we always have: the views and opinions that we share are absolutely from my side as an experienced professional, and it does not represent any particular organization, my present or past employers. This being a very sensitive topic, I request the participants here not to have pointed or direct questions naming individuals or celebrities and institutions and other organizations. We will have scenario-based discussions or hypothetical questions that will really help us to learn more. I'm sure as you go through this presentation for the next 1 hour, you will learn a lot of new things, and we'll make sure it's worth your time and effort. So before you hit the mute and walk away for a cup of tea, I'll get started with my presentation. So let's get going. The next slide, please. Right, this is the journey that I wanted all of us to go through during the next 1 hour. So I'll take you through the context, what it's all about, why we are doing this. As I mentioned, work from home, or is it really relevant to have a topic? Why would high-class university do this as a topic now when people are not even going to office? What is the relevance of a POSH topic? So I'll cover the basics in a nutshell, and I'll give you tips, practical insight in every slide so that you understand what is going behind each of these slides, what happens when a case is reported. I'll take you through the process. I'll take you through the common mistakes which we do as employers, okay, as committee members. What is the impact of work from home and work from office? I'm delighted to present this particular topic, which is close to my heart, something called Proximex. So this is a study of use of personal space. So I would request you to concentrate on this and how you can use this to bring down your, let's say, incident count, or how to increase your training methodologies, increase the number of training programs. And finally, I'll touch a little bit on the cross-cultural issues, because you have virtual teams spread across the globe. So what are the complexities that we have? The next slide, sir. All right. So if I can have the participants, maybe as I go through the chat box. So do you think, when I did my research for this topic, the number of incidents have come down? Please feel free to type in while I just go through the rest of the topic. Do you really feel the number of incidents have come down in a work from home scenario in the IT sector? So if you feel yes, it's the same, or if it has reduced, if it has increased, please let us know in the chat box, just to make sure the chat box is working for all of you, right? So please drop in your comments so that you don't go to the mute mode. right? Yes, I can see yes, yes, I guess no, right? Something which I found interesting during my research for this particular discussion was the number of cases have dropped, but then again, the focus is always only on the IT companies. Now, I just wanted to set the context here, right? Whenever it comes to the POSH Act, the focus is always on the IT company. This is one of the best piece of legislation that we ever had in this country, which focuses all the workplace. Any labor law that you take, okay, there is enough amount of confusion as to what is a workplace, what is a factory, what is a shop, what is an establishment. So having been in this field for almost 15 years now, we always try to beat around the bush, trying to arrive at a definition of what is a workplace. So this is a very comprehensive definition in this act. So I am not going to the workplace. So why I even bothered about a POSH session now? So if you can quickly type in what are the ways in which now an incident can happen. So I'm touching upon the second point, what is the relevance in work from home scenario, right? Maybe I'll wait 5 seconds for the participants to type what are the different methods in which a POSH case can happen now in a work from home scenario. I'm not visiting the office. I'm sitting in the comfort of my home. Nobody can disturb me. So how is it happening now? So while you ponder over that, I'll answer these questions. The relevance in today's scenario is that you have invited your office into your home. Okay, you can see my wall, right? You can see what is happening. Even if I blur it, okay, you have come into right into my household. So what really happens is, in the absence of clear-cut directions from the employers, this is invasion of privacy to a good extent, because if the employers and the team members don't understand what is the call time, what you can speak, what you cannot speak, or what you can show project during a, let's say, a Zoom call or a Google Meet call, whatever the platform, it is still a violation, right? So the incident rate, the statistic shows, has come down, but it is not so. It is underreported because nobody is tracking it. We are all lost with the number of COVID cases every day, but we are not really tracking what is the incident rate. That is the truth, right? How organizations need to adapt. If I pick up my phone and I try to call somebody, there are organizations which give a pop-up saying it's after 9 p.m. local time. Do you really want to call? Right? That is the kind of app I would like to have, and that is the kind of organization. The current organization where I work, it tells me after 8 p.m. It tells you, is it really necessary to call in a very decent way? It's 8 p.m. for the local person, so you really want to call them, right? So I would like the organizations, the firms, okay, everybody here to go back and check if you can tweak all those policies, the procedures, wherein you can build safeguard mechanisms, wherein you are prevented from doing something in an inadvertent manner. Right. I can see the answers coming in: video harassment actions, video recording, online wrong pictures and chat. Fantastic. Please keep it coming so that the speaker gets the energy. Verbal harassment and pressure. Why don't we meet quickly 10 p.m.? The customer is now asking for an update. We need to go live. So let's do the meeting right now, 10 p.m. 10 p.m. is okay for you, sir, but not for the female team members. She might be taking care of the household work. There may be aged parents, COVID positive patients at home. So how do we manage through the employer, the rules and regulations, what needs to be done? What are the changes you can consider for a safe workplace? Do I really allow all these things to happen from the management perspective just because the work gets done? I'm okay, I'm happy, my revenue is pouring in. Or should I, as HR, legal, and management, step in and say is enough? Right, right. I agree with you, Ms. Nisha. So people just dump work and they expect you to do it 24 hours. That is not fair, right? So the next slide, please. For people who wanted to tune out after 15 minutes, this is not a great session. Hold it right here. Look at this slide. This is the answer for you, for the YouTube generation who wants to have a video in 5 minutes. Please look at this. This is the essence of my entire presentation. When an incident is reported, okay, everything goes for a toss. Okay, there is a little bit of disequilibrium, right? So it starts from management. If the management is not giving the right signal to, let's say, the HR, the legal, and the other folks, all the stakeholders, it goes into a different zone. So I would appreciate if there are people who own businesses here. If you are advising as lawyers here, I can see some senior lawyers here. Please advise your firms to give that active support. A typical organization, doesn't matter what the revenue or the size of the company is, when the management says it gets done, period, right? The management says this has to be investigated. We'll have to get to the bottom of it, and that will be done. The thing happens like clockwork, right? Now, after management says, right, there is something serious. Okay, we need to change as a culture, as an organization. No, give more seriousness to this complaint. Then comes in the HR team who will look into the complaint. Okay, you will collaborate with the legal team to understand what is the gravity of the complaint. I'm just giving it in a nutshell, right? Then you go do a preliminary investigation. And most important nowadays, an important stakeholder is IT. How do you think, again, I request the participants to just pour in your answers here. How do you think the IT team, okay, the IT support team is crucial in, let's say, posh cases nowadays, let's say in work from home scenario? How do you think the IT team plays a role? 5 seconds, you just keep sending in your messages, right? It is not just your own employees, it includes your vendors, your visitors, right? When you're in the office space, everybody is included. The act is so exhaustive in coverage, you cannot skip anybody, even your vendor staff, your visitors, even if they are dropping in just for some appointment, they're all included. So be very, very cautious. So the application of mind in dealing with the complaint, we generally tend to be mechanical. When you do it day in and day out, when this becomes a habit, right? I'm just looking at the answers, right? Those are good answers, right? Right. Right. The IT team is required for digital evidence. If somebody drops in a message, inappropriate message, and deletes it, I send some pictures, I delete it. Okay, I dial a call, give a few missed calls just for the fun of it. I dial somebody, and you need the IT team to gather all the evidence. You cannot, as HR and legal team, you cannot just do this on your own because you're not monitoring all this, and you definitely need the IT support. Right. Identify the process gaps. I was talking about application of mind in dealing with a complaint. Right. Do not engage in this investigation just in a blind mode, as a mechanical mode. Don't engage in any of these complaints because you will miss certain essential aspects and things can go wrong. So please apply your mind as stakeholders as to where are the gaps in processes and policies. If you need to have a process, if you do not have a process, go back and have a process. If you have policy gaps, I don't have a workplace harassment policy. What do I do? Please go back. The greatest benefit, the greatest success of this session would be if you go back and say, hey, there is a gap here in my firm, in my company. I will go back and to the drawing board and design a foolproof policy. A lot of reference material is available on the net. You can always reach out for help and design a policy, right? Provide the mandatory trainings for people, the teams, the team leads. Every employee should have training, right? And have a proper system perspective. Take all the necessary precautions. Somebody was mentioning here in the chat box about digital evidence. Take enough precautionary measures so that you don't erase any data, especially in the work from home scenario. If there is a complaint within the 90-day period or even after that, you cannot say to the controlling authorities, when you're being questioned, that no, sorry, my data is erased, so I don't have the records, I will not be able to do anything. You will be in a very sticky situation, right? So make sure that everybody is aware of that case, what is happening, not the details of the case, not the identity of the people, but what is happening, the process update, the timeline update, to make sure everything is done on time, and make sure that you have a course correction when it is possible. Otherwise, all hell can break loose. So I'll just freeze it right here and we can move to the presentation for the next slide, please. Right. The act is very clear. This is the basics part of it. The employer should prohibit, prevent, and redress. So prohibition is by a signed statement from the CEO or the owner, the MD of the company, the firm, saying that this is not acceptable. We have a zero tolerance towards sexual harassment. And you need to have a published policy. No matter how big or how small you are, no matter where you are, what kind of business, you need to have a policy, written policy, and widely circulated. Everybody knows what it means when something goes wrong. So prevention, how do you prevent? Have the training programs, design training programs specifically for team leads, team members, right? What is the right way to do things, how to behave in a team atmosphere. Okay, and if something goes wrong, the redressal mechanism. How do you form the internal complaints committee? Who are the members you need to have? And what is the training that they need? You just can't form a committee and leave at that, right? You should revisit and make sure that they have sufficient training, let's say from practicing lawyers there, okay, industry experts on what needs to be done if some case goes out of control, what is the mechanism that you have to prevent these kind of cases, and how to lead this investigation. So make sure that you train your internal committee members also. So the act is very, very clear. Anybody reading that Bad Act can understand what is the provision involved, right? The internal committee is something very, very important. Okay, it is a make or break for the organization. If you do not choose the right kind of members, if you do not select the right kind of members for the committee, I'm sure the investigation will not be done in the most professional and in a time bound manner. So I would request all the people who have some stake, right, be it the advocates, be it HR or legal professionals here, please advise your respective stakeholders on the formation of internal committees. If you have not formed one, do it today. Find out the combination, find out the senior most women employee, and get this going, right? Please don't select people just for their seniority. Make sure that they are able to hold it together. So as I said, training the committee members is again essential. Timeline is important because you can be penalized if you don't do everything within the timeline. I'm sorry. And reports is again essential. What kind of reports you need to have as an employer, because the government has a right to ask for clarification and reports if they feel you have not taken sufficient action to redress this particular incident, right? The next slide, please. Okay, can you pick one out of this and say which is not a workplace? Maybe through your chat box, can you pick one? I can read out if it is not very clear. Government organizations, NGOs, house, nursing homes, corporations, companies, farms, educational institutions, hospital service providers, sports facilities, and cooperative societies. If you feel one of them is not part of workplace, you can type in the chat box. All our workplaces. Is this a workplace? I'm working from home. The next question is this a workplace? I'm not visiting my employer. Is this a workplace? The act doesn't say so. What is your answers? No. House, right? All our workplaces. Yes, the place where I work right now, and after the session, I'll go back and log into my office work. It is very much a workplace, because a workplace is defined as any place visited by the employee. This was considered or drafted in a work from office mode. Nobody ever thought we will be working in this pandemic situation, a WFH mode. So any place visited by the employee, I am virtually logging in. That's the office space. Arising out of or during the course of employment, including transportation provided by the employer for undertaking such a journey. It can be a cab, it can be a bus, right? It can be anything. It can be just a platform where we meet like this. Okay, I send in a Zoom meeting or a Google meeting and ask you to log in at 11 p.m. in the night, right? That doesn't work. Okay, that is also a workplace, and it is considered as a workplace, so there are no doubts about it. So as per this definition, a workplace covers both the organized and unorganized sectors. The major drawback of this entire IT and ITES and the POSH Act is people feel it is just only for the MNCs and the IT companies. This act is so comprehensive. That's why I wanted to put in this slide. It covers every workplace, even the house, right? Where a person, if you engage a domestic worker, right? If a company is taking care of its employees through a transit quarters, or let's say a guest house, if you have people working there, even there, the act applies, right? So somebody has typed now workplace is at a mobile position, right? Fantastic. So next slide, please. Right. I want you to remember these points. Just in case the presentation is not very clear, I'll leave the presentation with the host here, the institution. I think participants can reach out and get it. So there are no restrictions on that. I'm happy to share. So again, to reiterate, what I want to say is that the act is very comprehensive. The act covers everybody. It doesn't matter. You can play around with the words, whether they are contract employees, they are temporary employees, I'm not paying them on a monthly basis. No, the act is very clear. You need to cover everybody. So she can be a co-worker, a contract worker, a probationer, a trainer, an apprentice, or called by any other such name. You can play around with the words, but the act is very clear. Any individual is under this act. So the next slide, please. This will give you a better picture in terms of, ma'am, the next slide, right? So who this affected party can be. So it can be a working woman, visiting a workplace or a student. So under working, it can be any of these types, directly or through an agent, indirect for remuneration or voluntary basis, or it can be a domestic worker, it can be a regular, temporary, ad hoc, or daily wage. It can be anybody as long as you have a remote connection to the workplace. That individual has a right to raise a red flag, right? So next slide, ma'am. All right, let's come to a crucial part of the presentation wherein I was discussing about the committee. Right? It is very, very essential for the success of any of these investigations to have a solid team in place wherein the chairperson can hold the entire investigation together. So please do not select, from our experience, from my limited experience, I can tell you, please do not select somebody just for the seniority. That individual should have an ability, an analytical mind to understand what is the case, bring this team together, because you will have, let's say, two members, the other two members from the organization. You will have the outside representative from, let's say, an NGO or a lawyer coming in, right? You need to hold this team together, and this team can make or break the entire, like, the incident outcome. If you do a shoddy job, the matter ends there. Okay, it travels to court, it goes outside, negative PR, right? This committee, there have been instances where the courts have really questioned the capability of the internal committee members, right? So please make sure that the internal committee members are capable, knowledgeable, and they have sufficient amount of training. Please check their availability when you put them in any form of committee. I have seen instances where the committee members are not available. Most of them are traveling, or let's say they are not available for any other reason, and the incident, the timeline is is just, the clock is ticking. So that cannot happen under any circumstance. So please ensure that you have a chairperson at a senior women level. Okay, they understand the working of the organization. That person is recognized across departments, units. All right, two members minimum. We used to have three, so you can have two minimum, which the act prescribes, from amongst employees committed to the cause of women and having legal knowledge or experience in social work. The fourth one is an outsider. It can be from an NGO well versed with the affairs of the POSH Act. So next slide, ma'am. All right, the timelines, you might be aware of this. I'll go through it quickly. The victim or the complainant, they have time for, let's say, 3 months from the last incident. If it's a series of incidents, they have 3 months, right, from the last date when that incident happened. So from the receipt of the complaint, you need to like clock 7 days. Of receiving the copy of the complaint, you need to give a notice to the respondent. The inquiry process has to be completed within 90 days, right? From that period, 10-day period, you have for submission of report to your employer, and the employer has to take into account the timeline and make sure the recommendations are carried out within 60-day period. If, let's say, the complainant is not satisfied with the outcome of it, there is a right of appeal within 90 days of the recommendations. Next slide, ma'am. Ma'am, next slide. Ma'am, can we have the next slide?
Kumar,
Ma'am, can I have the next slide, please?
Kumar, can you change the slide, please? 1 minute, sir.
Yeah, I'll hold.
Maybe it's frozen or something. What's doing?
Meanwhile, I can engage the participants here with a quick quiz question before we have the presentation.
That would be a great idea. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Right. I'll engage the participants here. Okay, why don't we do this? So when was the landmark judgment passed for all the fastest fingers first, Vishaka versus state of Rajasthan? When was this case reported? Okay, I have Shubhankar Prabhakar, 1997. Somebody wants to challenge 1997. Okay, we have all answers. Right. If you can give me the name, nowadays we are very, very sure we don't use the name of the victims, but those were times wherein there was a very famous case, Vishaka versus state of Rajasthan. Yes. Can you tell me the name of the individual who suffered? Because she was very, very prominent and she used to participate and she never backed off from, let's say, sharing her opinions, or no, she used to, I think, give out her statements also, because that was a landmark case. Banwari Devi, I think some of them understood. Please stop. We know what you're trying to ask, and they've given the answers. So thank you so much, Banwari Devi. All right, all right. So let me move on to the next question. Can we have the slide before we run out of questions? Right. So I'll just hold the show. Okay. Let me ask this. Sorry.
No. I was just finding out what is happening there. The slides are not moving.
There is some issue. Just give a second.
Yes, please. Maybe somebody else can project it. Okay, so I'll keep this going. In 2013, what is the minimum number of employees for this committee to be formed? The Act says, what is the minimum number of employees that you need to have? 10. Supriya Zingra says 10. Rupa Kumar says 10. Kritika Singh says 10. Fantastic. What happens if I don't have 10 people in my organization? What do I do? Should I form a committee? Should I let it go? What is my option? I have a firm of, let's say, 8 professionals, high-end designers, graphic designers. So what do I do? LCC. Yes, the answer is right. Dissolve. Okay. Right. Dissolve the company. That's a very good answer. Right. So the local complaint committee comes into picture. Right. What do you think about the term that I mentioned earlier, proxemics? Have you heard about this term? PROX, yeah, EMICS. So have you heard about this term, proxemics? Correct, correct. Use of your personal space. Let's say if I use my, I'm just taking you through that slide, maybe I'll cut short on the time taken there. So what if I use my pen to touch somebody, right? I touch people, my colleagues. That is a field of study, okay? Using touch to communicate. Okay, what is that? The repercussions are different. I will be reported for misconduct, but it is something called haptics. So there are different fields of study wherein, how I use time, right? As a supervisor, I can barge into anybody's office and stop a meeting, and I can start dictating terms, right? As a subordinate, I cannot walk into my boss's office and dictate terms. So that is called chronemics, use of time. So we are going to see proxemics, chronemics, and haptics in the subsequent slides if we get it in the next few moments.
Darwin sir, can you allow Aishwarya to present the slides, please?
We can ask the help of Dr. Deepa Lakshmi also, Patila, if necessary.
She's
We're
ready,
trying,
sir.
ma'am. Just a minute. We're
He
trying.
has to allow, he has to permit.
We are only, ma'am. Just a minute, ma'am.
Okay.
So maybe we'll wait for the slides to come back online, and I can take you through the practical aspects of what is not okay, what is welcome, and what is not welcome behavior, because the Act specifically uses the term unwelcome behavior. So we would like to understand better what is all this about and what an organization should do, be it from your 5-member firm to your $5 billion companies, what you should do for stopping this incident. Having your internal committee in place is something, and trying to prevent it even before it happens is very, very essential for organizations. Okay. Ma'am, should I present the PPT? Maybe you can give me 2 seconds. I think that should be. Can I do that?
Is it permitting you to present? Just check it out, sir.
Aishwarya ma'am can share, ma'am. Aishwarya ma'am can share.
Sir, I do not have that option yet.
Still, she's not been permitted, sir.
Just give me a second. I'll try to do that. And please guide me through if I can share the presentation. Is anybody trying from the back end to present?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We are trying in just a minute. Yes.
So how do I do that, sir? How do I do that? How do I present? Is there a no enabling? You will give me the host access because I'm already the co-host.
Yeah,
How do I do it?
they have to technically enable you, sir, to present it.
Okay. Because I think I have the slides with me because I didn't want to interrupt
Yeah.
in case of a power cut. So meanwhile, I request the participants for your kind patience. We are really sorry about this. So if the technical team can guide me,
Sir, is it you presenting this?
no, I'm not presenting anything yet.
Aishwarya?
Slide is visible. Can you please, somebody saying slide is visible, please go down to, please press the down arrow
Yes,
so that we go to the point.
it is visible. Aishwarya, are you presenting? Please unmute.
Yeah, I'm trying for that share option. Yes, slide is visible. So can we just try to go to that slide, please?
Slide is visible. It's on the first page.
Yeah, but please move to that page where we know.
I think she's not able to move further. That's why she's asking the technical support.
All right, all right. I think we are good. We are good. Next slide, please. Next, please. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The previous one. I think we just overran. I think we were at 10. Previous one, please. Previous one. Previous one. Go back, go back, go back.
Yes,
Yeah, we've done this and go. You can go to the next one. Slide number 11, please. Slide number 11. All right, I covered this briefly, but it's the responsibility of employers to disseminate the information and do the awareness creation part. Please effectively communicate a policy. If you do not have one, please design a policy that prohibits unwelcome behavior. You have to carry out awareness and orientation. All multinational companies have the obligation to report this training programs. We record all these training programs, okay, which are the employees who were covered under this on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis, on a yearly basis. So we do have a track of who are the people who are getting trained, right? Make sure that your committees, the ICC, has the sufficient skill, the competency, and let's say the right set of training to carry out investigation. This is the responsibility of employers. So please publicize the names and contact details of your complaint committee members. Please do not store it in a locker and key in a cupboard where you don't get to even see it. Please publish it online in a work from home mode. Make sure that people have access to it, right? Make sure you publicize it maybe through a screensaver, a wallpaper, okay, where they can reach. Okay, this is the job of the HR or probably maybe the other internal communications teams. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. We are there. Thank you. So we come to a very important part wherein what is welcome and what is not welcome. Sir, I didn't really mean it. I gave you the example of touching somebody with a pen. I don't mean anything wrong, but somebody said that was a good answer. I couldn't go back to that answer, right? It's rude. It is not welcome. I can't touch somebody with my pen and say I didn't mean it. That's why I mentioned here unwelcome behavior, which has an impact on the victim and not the intent. My intentions can be holy. Okay, I have the best of intentions. But if I keep repeatedly doing this when the other person is not liking it, I think it's time to report. So there is nothing sexual about it, or let's say the sexual element. Let us not get hyper technical about whether a sexual intent is there and all. That is proper improper behavior. Proper improper behavior. I'm just giving you a new term, right? So that is not allowed. The individual doesn't feel good. On the left side, you can see it is not good, it is not legal, and the person doesn't appreciate it. Okay, if it doesn't make them happy and it causes positive self-esteem, if it is under any of this, all right, if it is bearable and they're okay with it in a professional atmosphere, fine. But even if there is a slightest hint that the person feels bad and it is illegal, demeaning, causes anger or sadness, causes negative self-esteem, do not proceed, right? This is where training is important for managers, the co-workers, wherein what is right and what is not right. Something which is right for you is not right for somebody sitting in the Middle East. It is not right for somebody in LATAM or APAC or US, right? So it is not right for them. So don't do it. So moving on to the next slide, please. Okay, so how do I actually explain this workplace sexual harassment? Very professional guy, okay, very nice. Everybody likes that individual, okay. But there is another side to this gentleman wherein he entices, or should I use the word a quid pro quo, right? I give implied or explicit promise of preferential treatment. Okay, I'm the good variety, so I give preferential treatment. Okay, and there is the other variety wherein I threaten people. You will not proceed further in your career. You will not go to places where you want to reach. I'll make sure that your career is destroyed, right? This is the negative type. The positive type is you have abundant talent. I'll make sure that you deserve all the recognition. You get all your extra, let's say, the recognition that you deserve, right? Anything of this sort is wrong. Okay, so whether the good types or the bad types, if there is a hint, even the slightest hint of implied or explicit promise or implied or expressed threat about present or future employment, I know the management, right? You can't do anything. I can speak to the CEO. You can't do anything about it. No, right? Subtle. Okay, I have a very senior position. I know that nobody can rub against me, and I can take people to task. People will lose their jobs. Okay, even if I don't say anything, okay, even if there is an implied threat, okay, there is danger, the teams have to step in. Moving on to the right side, creating a hostile, intimidating, or an offensive work environment. I cut off every possible resource for you and make sure that you are suffering because of your response to what I did. So I'm humiliating you in front of others to affect your health and safety, creating a hostile work environment. These can be the forms of workplace sexual harassment. We'll deal further in the next slides. The next slide, please. Right. So we'll just take a pause here and understand the process quickly. All of us know on a plain reading of it, okay, you will know what is the process. You have to receive the complaint. I'll just refer quickly to my notes. I'll lose eye contact with you for maybe 5 seconds. So please bear with me. Right. Right. Okay. Okay. Right. Let's go to step 1. I'm sending you an email as a victim. I'm sending you an email, right? You will have to acknowledge it. Okay. Don't wait till you find the right committee members, form a committee. What you need to do is receive the complaint. If it comes at the very beginning, please call the person. If you're working from office, meet the person, right? Don't try to be impersonal, okay, and have just a mechanical phone call. Please invite the person, understand there is a human being involved. Please understand what is the mental state of that person who is complaining, right? So receive and acknowledge the complaint. If it's an email, good. If they want to give a handwritten complaint, please do get it. Meet and talk, okay? If the person doesn't want to go through a formal process, do not force. If the person feels, no, I'm not up for it, I really don't want to go that way, I want you to just call him and warn him, I think that's done, I want to go the informal way, please give that space. But if the situation is serious and if you feel this is a really bad incident, try convincing the person that you will not have any retaliatory action, you will not be punished, and you will not lose your job, right? So please make sure that you have this discussion and understand whether the complainant wants to go the informal way or the formal way. Okay, you will have to call the respondent, give a notice, and get going. Stage 2, preparation of the file and planning for the IC investigation process. Make sure you get all the information from the IT teams for the login, the call entries. Okay, if the person has visited office, check the CCTV footage, because you do not want a situation where on that day the person is not there and the complaint says 24th of June and the person has not even turned or logged in. Okay, make sure you tie the loose ends, do a preliminary investigation, right, just to make sure that you have all the facts and information available for the investigation committee. Stage 3, plan the interviews, make sure everybody is available on the same date, and please do not have this in the open view of the entire office. I've come across organizations doing this in the full view. Let's say it's a 1-floor office, let's say 1,000 square feet or a 2,000 square feet office with 200 or 300 people sitting in there, or maybe 100. Do not do or carry out this investigation process in full view of the people. That's the last thing you can do. One practical tip is hold this, okay, when, all right, you have the privacy for the people, right? So do that. And stage 4, analyze the sequence of events. Make sure you have the assets, the information, everything under your custody. If let's say a laptop was used, make sure that you have the laptop. If there was any email, make sure you go back and try to trace that email. Make sure you have every piece of information for you to proceed further. For the committee, after the interviews are done, reason together and give out the findings and recommendation to the employer, the management, as to what needs to be done. Submit that report. Okay, the report has to be very, very clear. And what is the finding? What is the recommendation? You cannot have vague and ambiguous finding and recommendation. Next slide, please. Okay, I'll take you quickly through this. What is the actual impact, right, on the individual concerned? There can be a decreased work performance, increased absenteeism. Okay, these can be also symptoms. It's not just that after the incident. If somebody is showing these signs or symptoms, please check as HR or let's say team members, co-workers. If somebody is going through this problem, please step up and try to help out the person involved here. So if let's say there is depression, anxiety, panic attacks, or traumatic stress, sleeplessness, shame, guilt, all these are kind of impact that it has on the individual concerned. Please make sure that if somebody has gone through this or they are showing some signs of it, make sure that you are addressing it as a co-worker or as a HR team member. All right. So the other impact, what stops somebody, right? I'll lose my job. They'll start talking about me in an unprofessional way. All right. Being ostracized, having to relocate, I'll be transferred, I'll lose out on my job opportunities. I'm the sole earning member of this family. So will I lose my job? So let me keep quiet. This builds in pressure. This creates that pressure, and this leads to a drop in work and as well as your personal health. So this is the sum total of the effect, the impact on aggrieved women. So next slide, please. Okay, so if it is not obvious, I am doing certain things which can indicate underlying workplace harassment. I'm monitoring somebody without any particular reason. I'm blaming an individual constantly without them making any errors. Okay, I'm singling out somebody. Hey, Miss XYZ, for unnecessary reasons. Okay, I'm trying to insult her, humiliate her. Okay, I'm interfering with the normal work conditions. I'm humiliating a person in front of colleagues for nothing, for no reason. Okay, engaging in smear campaigns. If I'm arbitrarily taking disciplinary action against an employee, you logged in late for 2 days, so I'll take a disciplinary action. So even if there is no hint of sexual harassment here, please make sure what is the underlying, the idea or theme, because if sometimes there are complaints by team members that this is right, this is the course of action that was taken against me. Please ensure if there is an underlying case of workplace harassment. Sometimes it is not so obvious, right? And the list continues. So inappropriately giving too little or too much work. Somebody was mentioning here, dumping work on somebody in the chat box, right? So please analyze if there is a pattern. If this is being done in a periodic way and one individual is being targeted or a group of individuals are being targeted, right? Please make sure that you read these symptoms, these signs properly and nip it in the bud and make sure these things are arrested at the earliest possible stage. Don't wait for an incident to happen. That can be really costly. So the next slide, please. What is not sexual harassment? Somebody is asking me on my work nature and following up, have you completed it? No, that is definitely not sexual harassment. Okay. How we do follow up work, how we, enforce the discipline, you need to learn. But the point is following up on work absences, requiring performance to job standards. You'll have to adhere to, let's say, a job standard. If I'm asking my subordinate this, that does not amount to sexual harassment, right? The normal exercise of management rights. I take disciplinary action for, let's say, a misconduct, or let's say for some other behavior, tardiness, or something else. The normal exercise of management right does not constitute sexual harassment. Okay, work related stress, meeting deadline, I'm under pressure. Okay, this is harassment. It can be some other factor, but definitely not sexual harassment. So conditions of works. Okay, if the employer stipulates certain conditions, there is no preliminary for you to achieve results, and we need these standards. That is again not harassment. So constructive feedback about the work. Please ensure that you are criticizing the work and not the individual, their physical or emotional state. It is not about that individual. Please only give constructive feedback as line managers, as supervisors, as team leads. make sure, and also the HR and legal team, make sure you have mechanism. The impact on teams. What is the actual impact on teams when an incident happens, right? First, there is erosion of trust. Second, there is breakdown in team communication. So I work in a team, I'm involved in an incident, and I have a 5-member team. I don't get a chance to speak to the other person, the complainant, and I am the respondent here, right? So there is no communication. The team productivity is gone. The team bonding is gone. Okay, there is a polarized atmosphere, me versus you. I'm the guilty guy. Okay, so the team thinks so before it is proved. I'm not able to get any work, so there is a loss of reputation. Okay, at a personal level, at a team level, and at also at organization level. So impact on business. I'm not getting the things done because the person concerned has asked for a transfer to another department. She's not reporting to work, right? These are all practical day-to-day impact on teams, right? And the overall impact on brand value. If this travels outside to the let's say news media, you will have again severe brand issues. Let me come to the slide where we were discussing about proxemics. So there were a great set of answers. How do I use my space? How do I use my space surrounding me effectively is what proxemics is all about. You can move to the next slide, please. Yeah. So in a work from office situation, this is very, very significant. How far do I stand from somebody? Okay. What is the distance that I maintain from my teammates, right? So this is something which all organizations tend to ignore. You need to start training on. If you are, let's say, from HR, or let's say from the admin, or anywhere who's in charge, or training managers, if you are the training manager of an organization, please look into this, deep dive into this topic and understand. It's a very different field, but it can be applied. This is from Edward Hall. This principle, or let's say this proxemics, is very, very essential for us to understand how you can prevent incidents from happening by teaching people. I think again we lost the slide. You can go back to the slide, please. Can you see the slide? Because I can't see the slide. Yeah, now it is there. Next slide, please. Right, we are there. So behavioral training is vital. Okay, in a work from home context, somebody was telling me posting pictures, placing calls at the wrong time, right? I am using inappropriate language or content. I pasted a picture here, right, which is offensive for all the employees, not just for the women employees, right? How do you define proxemics in work from home scenario? How do I know sit in front of the camera? So is that a proper body posture? What do I convey through my body language, right? So all organizations, I think it's the need of the hour to look into this particular aspect of how do you use space, how do you train your employees and your teams to understand what is this concept. If you go on to the next slide, it will be clear. Next slide, please. Right. Please take a look at this. I'll give you 5 seconds. What is the ideal space for different kinds of, let's say, engagement? A personal space with close friends, what is it? 1.5 to 2.5 feet, 2.5 to 4 feet, and a social space for interactions, 4 to 7 and 7 to 12. That's among acquaintances. Public space, if you're giving a speech, let's say in a work from office mode, in a public space, in an auditorium, 12 to 25 feet or 25 feet or more. So what matters in this context is how do you understand personal space and social space? If you get this wrong, you are getting into a danger zone. Okay, all of us need to understand, am I doing it the right way? So am I maintaining that distance? Now that we have social distance, corona in a good way, it is possible to avoid a lot of incidents. So if you continue to have the social distancing when you go back to your work from office scenarios, we will have a lot of incidents averted. So the next slide, please. All right, coming to this particular slide, cross-cultural issues. Now we have virtual teams across the globe. I interact with teams in Mexico. I interact with teams in the Middle East, or let's say in APAC. So their culture is different, right? The way I speak, the way they speak is different. The pace of the conversation is different. Their culture is different. I can't ask somebody sitting there, no, what did you do over the weekend? So how is your family? Are you married? It may or may not be okay in an Indian context. You can't ask somebody there, know what you did for the weekend. That is none of my business. Okay. So I ask somebody, are you married? How many kids? No. that's what, again, you need to understand the culture of the person at the other end. Okay, with increasing collaboration with the, let's say, teams across the globe on a daily basis, you need to be careful on what you speak, how you behave with your counterparts spread across the globe. If you have an incident in that scenario there, what you have on the right side picture, I'm not really sure which jurisdiction will apply, because there are so many countries involved, so many nationalities. I don't know how you will pick a jurisdiction and carry out the investigation process and come to a conclusion. Okay, we've had incidents where the client has given us a red flag saying that this behavior is not proper. So, okay, then all hell breaks loose. Everybody goes into a mode wherein we'll have to arrest this. No problem. This is a reputation issue. The client will take back the business. But the point is, you failed to train employees in the first place on cross-cultural understanding the behavior. What needs to be trained was not done. So please, let's start doing it today. So, right, I can look at the comments. Maybe I'll come back to that. Pretty interesting ones. So the next slide, please. I think, yeah. So these are the common mistakes. I'll wrap it up in the next 5 minutes or max 6 to 7 minutes. These are the common mistakes that we do as internal committee or team members, or let's say from management side or HR side. There is an improper preliminary investigation and inefficient case preparation, right? I do not look at it, like I mentioned earlier, with my mind being applied. I do it in a mechanical way. I don't have the facts right. That is the first mistake that you will do, because you have done a shoddy work and the IC does not have the proper material to proceed further. Incident version change. You will always have a version dilution. For all the lawyer friends here, okay, please make sure that the version that you get from the employer is the same version that what happened inside the organization. You will have version 1.0 and 2.0, right? After having all the necessary changes, what needs to be conveyed. If you are looking into a particular aspect, please tell them, please give me the case as it is. What happened? Do not dilute the facts, right? Little or no documentation resulting in lack of proper evidence for the IC. There is no mail, there is no complaint, there is nothing, no transaction, and the IC is formed and they are sitting with the case with the witnesses. They'll not be able to do anything. Make sure you have every paper possible, even if it's a digital workflow, there is a track, a work list. Okay, try to dig it up from the system. That's why your system team comes into picture. Make sure you have that available. Non-availability of IC members. You hold the first session today, the first sitting, and then you do it in the next month. No, that is a big no. I have seen this happen. Please do not do that. That is totally not acceptable for the complainant, for the process. And when somebody outside the system, let's say the authorities look into the case, you met on particular day and you wanted to do it. If there is a proper justification, yes, doable, but don't do it just because the IC members were busy and they are senior people. You know, they were on business visit, travel. I was going to an on-site client meeting. It doesn't go the right way, right? Okay. So lack of clarity and approach and lack of management support. The first thing that I started was with management support. If the management is not giving the right kind of support, POSH Act cannot be implemented in letter and spirit in an organization. Make sure that management understand what is the seriousness of this act, right? Insufficient experience of the team. This is again something which we always find. One or two members are just there for adding the numbers. Okay, two are experienced, two are inexperienced. They can really scuttle the whole process. You need to have 4 or 5 competent, really competent people in the team, right? The final thing is disconnect in process flow. The investigation is happening on one side, the HR team is somewhere aligned to other side, the legal team is not even aware of what is happening, and there is a payroll deduction for the complainant. Imagine if a complainant's pay is cut for some other reason, for some other, let's say, unrelated reason. How does it look for outsiders, right? So don't do anything unrelated, or let's say have all of these in one basket and make sure that the process is one seamless flow, right? Remedies available in the act. I think the last 2 slides. The affected person can ask for transfer, and the employer can transfer the aggrieved woman or the respondent to any other workplace. You can grant leave up to a period of 3 months and any other relief that the committee deems fit. In the interim, this is an interim relief, right? Next slide, please. Yeah. So compensation as a remedy, what needs to be factored in, let's say, when you're deciding on a compensation. The mental trauma, the suffering, pain, and emotional distress caused to the victim. This is something which you need to consider. Okay, the loss in her career prospects, the medical expenses, okay, all the psychological support that she needs from the professional counselors or psychiatrists. So, what are the medical expenses she has undergone to come out of this? The income and financial status of the respondent. The possibility of such payment can be in lump sum or installments. So what I wanted to convey through this slide is that this is very rarely done, because most of the cases ends with the person being sent out. If there is a case, companies have a zero tolerance policy. Very rarely I have seen compensation being given because that is not sending the right signal, right? Even as a remedy, but there are instances. So make sure if you're going to grant compensation, you have all the facts with you. Make sure that you are considering all these aspects. So the next slide, please. Right. What happens if you don't follow any of this? The employer does not comply with the law. They can be penalized with a fine, which may extend to rupees 50,000. Repeated non-compliance, employer may be penalized with twice the punishment. And above all, the most dangerous, non-compliance can also lead to cancellation of license, withdrawal, or non-renewal of registration for carrying on business by the government. And most importantly, you will lose your customers, your employees, your brand value. It will all disappear in one day, in one case. All the hard-earned reputation, the brand value, okay, it goes for a toss right out of the window in one case. So make sure that doesn't happen to any of the organizations. Next slide, please. I think we have come to the end. It's Q&A time. So as I always say, wrong guesses are costly. Please ask questions, seek clarity, and knock out doubts. And with this, I rest. So we are good to go for Q&A. Now it's 4:13.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your detailed and comprehensive presentation. It was a very interactive one, and we apologize for the technical glitch. You have been patient, and thank you for bearing with us.
Murphy's law is always in operation, so don't worry. Mr. Murphy is always active. What has to go wrong will go wrong. So it happens, part of life. Please,
Can we move on to the question and answer session, sir?
Maybe I can scroll through the chat box and understand. There are a lot of interesting thoughts. I think my screen is playing a little bit of a trick here right now. Somebody can help me because my screen is kind of.
Shall I, sir?
Yeah, please.
Actually, read out the questions.
Yes, sir. I am.
Was very
How does the
enthusiastic.
appeal
Kumar Mepan Kumaran, you are there. You can also read out.
Sir,
You're a moderator.
The first question.
Unmute, please, and then read out. Kumar Mepan can do.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. So, like Siva Kumar, this person wants to know how to prepare a posh investigation report. Can you explain it, sir?
Okay, I wanted to cover that. That is again an entire session by itself, because if you don't prepare a report properly, the whole thing is a waste of effort and time, right? So that is why I mentioned the committee needs to have a little bit of training on report writing. What was the case that came to your attention? How was it given? Okay, in what was the complaint all about? Analyze each of these angles threadbare, line by line, point by point, to make sure that you have not forgotten to address any particular angle. You have not forgotten to address, let's say, a charge. Okay. Make sure that you cover each and every aspect of this. What were the discussions, the deliberations? Okay, the IC committee by itself, okay, is a separate session. How you need to be. You cannot be aggressive against the respondent in trying to bring out the truth. You cannot be over, let's say, you cannot be too easy and flexible. Also, you need to strike a balance between the two parties. You need to have a proper atmosphere. You need to have all the. Do not discuss. Please do not discuss during the interviews when you are having an interaction with the complainant or the respondent or the witnesses. You should not discuss amongst yourselves. Let's say the 4 or 5 of you on the case, what you feel about it. I have seen this happen. So that is not the way to go. So there will be a scribe involved to take the entire notes. You will have to get the signatures of every single meeting, every single page, okay, verbatim, so that you don't go back and say I never mentioned this. Okay, so all of them have to sign, every single member, right, and every witness, they have to sign this. Okay, and this forms a part of the documentation. And the final report, you need to be very, very clear and not ambiguous. So I hope that answers.
Yes, sir. So the next question, thank you for answering. The next question is, will the protection under this legislation be extended to trans women as well?
I don't see any reason why it cannot be extended. Absolutely. No organization differentiates between nowadays, any multinational company for that matter does not differentiate based on, let's say, the gender, the class, all right? So any policy, if you can say any major multinational corporation, the language used in the workplace, the sexual harassment policy is neutral. Of course, it complies with the provision of the Indian law, but it is gender neutral and it covers anybody. Okay, it's more about the individual self-respect, what they feel. So this act specifically mentions about women, but I hope they make some changes down the line. So I really hope they do to bring in and to widen the ambit. Okay, there is also something called false complaints. Okay, I think maybe one particular instance in the act it mentions what happens if there is a false complaint, right? I have seen maybe 1 out of 1,000 which is a false complaint. Okay, so that is easily identifiable. 1 in 1,000 or maybe in a 10,000. Nobody just does it for the heck, right? So, but still the possibility is there, even point not 1%, right?
Thank you, sir. So the next question is there any act specifically for men for the prohibition of harassment in workplace?
No, but generally, workplaces have a disciplinary, let's say, the conduct policy, standing orders, or they will have their own sort of instructions how to behave in an office space. So the general rules of engagement, the conduct. So there goes the remedy for male employees. There is no specific act for the male employees.
Thank you, sir. So there is another question regarding how do you compensate for sexual harassment and the mental trauma that arises out?
It's a very difficult question. If you ask me, I have not done that professionally in my experience, right? But what I've heard is that you can, let's say the person leaves the job, then as an employer, no matter how much you've done, you make sure that person is compensated, right? From an organization perspective, or let's say from making the respondent pay for it. Okay, if there is an incident, make sure that the person does not suffer, right, in terms of being a notice period pay, or let's say you calculate a compensation and allow them to do that. The HR teams to calculate, let's say, a decent amount, right? And for the expenses, the medical expenses I mentioned earlier, and give as a lump sum payment to the individual. So I would like to see Jesus. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Then another question is, if a husband assaults or abuses the wife at workplace, can the employer or the internal complaints committee assist the woman employee in taking action?
Sorry, come again. Sorry,
No,
I missed that.
if the husband of the woman assaults or abuses her at the workplace, can the employer or the ICC assist the woman employee in taking action?
You will have to really discussion with the employee there, the affected employee there, on how this needs to proceed. It's not just a matter of ticking the box of POSH Act. Okay, so it's at the end of the day, it's husband and wife, right? If I heard you right, it's a married couple.
Yes.
There are larger issues involved here. If she really wants to do a formal process because she has lost her face in front of everybody, right? Doesn't matter if husband or wife. Okay, you let us not really get technical about sexual harassment. That's a very different thing, right? If there is a behavior, if let's say if he has misbehaved, he should face the music for it, and there is a disciplinary procedure in all the organizations. It need not be sexual harassment. Okay, it can be even a married couple. There are enough ways and means to make sure that the person who does the mistake is punished, right? So next question.
Thank you, sir. The next question is POSH applicable to the unorganized sector? And if so, on whom will the burden of proof lie? Because they are not literate enough to know about the laws.
Okay. Without naming any organization, I can say I've had experience with a housekeeping staff coming up to us and telling us, sir, this is the trauma that I'm undergoing. So now will you tell her there is a formal mechanism, informal mechanism? She was earning hardly 4,000 or 5,000 rupees. And the gentleman who was responsible for it was a very senior person, right? So consider this a hypothetical scenario.
Thank you, sir. Another?
Yeah, I'll just answer that.
Yes.
You would have to understand as HR and legal practitioners whether you really can hold this process together. Will that individual even come forward? He's an illiterate person. To answer the question directly, right? You can hold a posh investigation, but the point is what happens to the livelihood, you can guarantee, but the person is not from a background where they will be able to stand this whole process, right? We do not have the mechanisms to make sure that this person is completely protected. Organizations can have measures, but they will not come forward and do it. Make sure that you carry out your own investigation and take the disciplinary route and take appropriate course of action. The burden of proof to answer in a legal way, if you can even sense there is something wrong, don't wait for that individual to raise it as a posh complaint, go with the usual process of the IC, right? That person will not come forward. 99 times out of 100, they do not have the process awareness, they do not have the intention to lose their income, because that's their only source of survival. Next question, please.
The next question is regarding the slide when you were talking about physical distancing. But the question is, ironically, the distance has been reduced due to online meetings and working spaces. So how can we determine the distance in online platform, in online meeting?
Okay. The virtual distance can be better. Don't have no random meetings just at the drop of a hat. Don't schedule meetings at 10 p.m., 11 p.m., and 12 p.m. if it is not a cross country or a different geography call. If you are in India, try to reduce it. Okay. So anyway, you're working for the money that you're being paid. Make sure that you don't do anything silly. That is what I mean by distancing. Don't speak unnecessary words. Your choice of words when you're talking to somebody over a video call, right? Everything gets recorded. So make sure that even I think that can be traced back to you. If not anything, the call place can be traced, right? Why did you place a call at the wrong moment, right? So make sure that you are 200% cautious when you are holding meetings. Do not blurt. I would use the word blurt things which are not required in a team meeting. Don't single out people, okay? And you can have a safe course through this pandemic work from home situation.
Thank you, sir. The next question is, can I move on to the next question, sir?
Yes, please.
The next question is regarding the rights of the complainant or respondents regarding the transparency of the inquiry in view of Section 16 of the POSH Act.
Right. You cannot do everything, let's say a private mode. The internal committee cannot, there is a request from the, let's say, complainant or respondent. Your foremost task is to make sure that there is transparency. Okay. You don't have to discuss with the actual, let's say, what is the thought process, what is going behind, but who are the list of witnesses? What is that, the proceeding? How we are planning to do it? And finally, you can have a meeting with the complainant and the respondent on what is the, let's say, the general course of the investigation, okay, how it was done, and this is what we try to, whether they agree with it or they disagree with it is something different. But if they demand for it, you can, because it's not at the end of the day something like investigation which is done by the enforcement authorities, right? It's two individuals, two employees within your own organization. So at the end of the day, they both have to still be in your organization and contribute and make sure the justice is also done. So to answer that question, they have the right to know what is happening. You can't keep them in secrecy, or let's say, you can't hide things and do it the way you want, and only reveal what you want to reveal. So a degree of transparency is required. So, right, next question.
Next question is, how do these harassments impact employee behavior and job growth?
They leave. Let's say the complainant, if she feels justice was not done, they'll leave. So there ends your career. They'll have to find something new. So you lost a good worker there, let's say. And for you will not be able to face your team members. Let's say you are proven right, even if it is confidential. At the end of the day, your guilt, right, triggers a lot of other reactions. That person will leave. So I've seen both of these things happen. So it can have a lot of impact on your. It can have. That's where HR has to step in. If it's a minor incident, you have to train them, counsel them, give them professional support, so that they don't really make a mess of their careers, especially in these scenarios where jobs are really hard to come. I think we'll last question. We are approaching the end.
Okay, so one last question maybe. The question is regarding the provision of conciliation before initiation of inquiry under Section 11. So can you just elaborate about that?
I think briefly touched upon this. informal and formal. If there is a possibility, if there is a minor incident, when I say minor, right, there is a sign of an underlying harassment, okay, and the complainant says, I know this guy is not really trying to do what he's trying to do. Maybe a word can do, but I don't want to skip this and make sure that this behavior does not continue with myself or let's say other team members. Conciliation is possible. Please explore. If it is really serious, it's like a forest fire. Don't try to bring in conciliation. If it is like a bush fire wherein you feel the complainant wants to do this in an informal way, try for conciliation and close the proceedings there and get written statements that the matter ends there. Okay. Please do not force conciliation on the parties. Please do not do it arbitrarily from your own as an employer. Right? The parties involved, especially the complainant, has to give her consent for this conciliation proceeding. Don't force anything on them. So that's my view.
Yes, sir.
Sir said last question. Mayappan, you're trying to go for another question.
Yes, sir. No, ma'am. If sir wants to answer, we can answer. Otherwise, we can wind up the question answer.
Sir, if at all you find any other interesting question in the chat box, you could pick one and you can just give the answer.
Maybe one of you can scroll down the last question out of that lot. Maybe if you can just scroll down.
There's one more question, sir, which they're asking. Sir, do you think the POSH Act should be made gender neutral?
Yes, I would say that will be a great thing to do. Okay, but let's get started with this act. So the focus is only on the IT establishments. Okay, now is the time to focus on all the other establishments because it's hugely underreported. There are instances even where people don't want to go to work. I've seen that. Okay, right from let's say, to any other establishment. Just park these IT establishments. They can survive on their own. They will do anything that the government wants just because there is a brand value involved, and there are clients across the globe. There is no escape mechanism for any of these giant organizations. Please start focusing on firms, the small firms, the 5, 10, 15, and the 50 and 100 member firms or organizations, okay, wherein they do not have the resources to have an internal committee, go for legal advice. It is high time that we started focusing on all these institutions. Just take away the spotlight from all these IT. If you Google search, wash all the complaints, all the things that you get from all these IT companies. Okay, enough mechanism is there to take people to task. Okay, please start focusing on the small organizations. And yes, the act has to bring in gender neutrality to it, right? But this was done after 1997 in 2013. So let's give it some time before we go to the next phase of it. So that is my
So
subject.
one question from me. Now only I got it. They say unorganized sector, no sir, in labor thing. For them, the sexual harassment, is there any relief under the statute?
The act very clearly says it covers both organized and unorganized sector, and that is the reason why they brought in the 10-member limit for any kind of place. I think one of the slides we saw.
When it is unorganized, the committee and all you cannot form, no sir.
They have the LCC. They have the LCC. The government should have a mechanism at each district. They have to, let's say, designate an official, a senior ranking official, district magistrate level, and a few other members. The composition of the team is a little different there. For the LCC, a little different. They will have social workers, okay, 2 or 3 members from organizations representing those kind of firms, right? The composition differs. But I don't really think there was an RTI query for which the response was abysmal. Not even 10% of the districts have the mechanism in place. So my numbers can be a little off the actual facts, but still the fact is that we have not done enough in terms of the government machinery, the districts having LCCs. So that is why I'm saying it is time to move forward, start focusing on LCCs and let's say the smaller organizations so that justice is done everywhere, not just only in the billion-dollar companies. So with that, I guess I rest my case.
Aishwarya, you can carry on.
Thank you, Mr. Rao, and thank you, Mr. Mayappan Kumaran, for handling the question and answer session. Now I call upon Ms. Pertila Vincent, Assistant Professor, Department of Business Laws, the Tamil Nadu Dr. Ambedkar Law University, to present the formal vote of thanks. Madam.
Thank you, Aishwarya. Thank you for that. Now
Not to be seen,
Ma'am, I'm a little scared if the video is on, I might get cut. So for the safer position, I'm just offing the video, ma'am. A very pleasant good evening to one and all present here. I thank the Almighty for this wonderful day and making this webinar a successful one. On behalf of the Business Law Department, I would like to present a vote of thanks. Firstly, I would like to thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. N.S. Santosh Kumar Sir, for giving us this platform. His constant guidance and support have helped us to march further in our professional life. I extend my sincere gratitude to Professor Dr. Balaji Sir, Registrar in Charge, the Tamil Nadu Dr. Ambedkar Law University, and Director in Charge, UG Studies, School of Excellence in Law, for providing his immense support to make this webinar a successful one. Next, I would like to give a special thanks to our beloved Professor, Dr. Kumudha Ratna, Director in Charge, Postgraduate Department, School of Excellence in Law, the Tamil Nadu Dr. Ambedkar Law University, whom we always take the pride in calling the captain of the ship. Ma'am, we sincerely thank you for the novel idea that you have given us. Your dedication and imperfection have always been an inspiration to us. Your guidance, care, and concern have also been with us like a shadow. Thank you so much, ma'am, for this wonderful things you have done for us. Next, I would like to thank our beloved Professor Dr. Harita ma'am, head of the department in charge for Department of Environmental Law and Legal Order, and Director in charge, Research and Publication and Academic Affairs. She has always supported us with her helping hands and mind. I guess you would all accept if I say that one doesn't have to be a business law student or a student from Soil to get Harita ma'am's help. She is readily open to help everyone and anyone. She's always ready with the words, very enthusiastically saying, "What can I do?" with a sweet Malayalam slang. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for being such a sweetheart to us. Moving on next, I would like to thank our dear Professor Dr. Ranjit sir, who had always been our motivator. Sir, your gentle words and smile helped us to walk with you all in such a comfort zone. You're not only student friendly, but also faculty friendly. Thank you so much, sir, for all your guidance along with kindness. A special thanks to Mr. Ramnath Rao, who has added color and grandeur to our webinar. It was great to have you, sir. It was really nice to get things from the horse's mouth. Really, you have really given the insights and made us realize how important it is on the training part. We really realized in today's session, sir. Thank you so much for all those.
Thank you very much, sir, from all of us in the Department of Business Law and the university also. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
I would also like to extend my thanks to our Professor Dr. Srinivasan sir, the Controller of Examination. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the support and graciously being here with us. Thank you for that, sir. I would also like to extend my deepest thanks to all the professors of School of Excellence in Law. I would like to thank other dignitaries from various law colleges and universities for participating in this webinar. A special mention to Mr. Darwin for supporting us technically.
Mr. Darwin, I did not mention you in my welcome address. You know, always you are most welcome. Without you, we cannot be in this platform at all. Thank you very much, Mr. Darwin.
Sorry, sir, I missed to mention a special thanks to Dr. Ashok Kumar sir also for all his support. Last but not least, I would like to thank all the students, participants who had made this webinar a grand success. I once again thank our beloved professors, Dr. Kumudha ma'am, Dr. Harita ma'am, Dr. Ranjit sir, who are the pillars of our strength for supporting us and giving us this opportunity. Thank you so much, professors. Thank you all.
Thank you all for finding
Thank you so
time and
much.
attending today's webinar. The feedback link is posted in the chat box.
Posted in the YouTube link also. Tell that. Tell that. Aishwarya, YouTube. It will
YouTube.
be posted there also. YouTube.
The feedback link is being posted in the
Form will be posted in the YouTube.
YouTube
Well,
app.
Aishwarya.
Yes, ma'am. The feedback link is posted in the chat box in Cisco WebEx as well as YouTube.
Thank you very much, sir. We may.
So, with your permission, I'll exit, ma'am.
Patila, you tell.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for coming, and really it was nice to have you here. Our students really had a very interactive session, and that too, you have proved how interesting you can have an interaction session through chat box.